Welcome to Let's Talk Migraine, where we talk about some of the hottest topics faced by people who live with migraine, a disabling and complex neurological disorder that affects nearly 40 million people in the US alone and 1 billion globally. Today, we're going to be talking about the importance of having a migraine action plan for the acute treatment of migraine and how that can dramatically impact the way you manage attacks. Not all migraine attacks are the same, not only for different people, but for each individual person as well. And so the way we treat them can depend on the severity of our symptoms, the actual symptoms that we have, how fast we're able to start treatment, triggers, and our responsibilities for that day. So let's launch into this topic, which is new to so many of us, and let's talk about putting together a migraine treatment toolbox for the acute treatment of migraine. Let's start out with you, Erin, and let me ask you, are all your migraine attacks the same or do they differ?
No, not all of them are the same. Sometimes I wake up with a excruciating migraine attack, and I've got the whole gamut of symptoms. Sometimes I might just have nausea. Sometimes I don't have nausea. Sometimes I have light sensitivity or smell sensitivity. It really depends on, I guess, how my body is reacting to the attack that time around.
Absolutely. And what about you, Angel?
As a person who suffers from various different types of migraine, I also have various different triggers. And so that could mean that some mornings it is the nausea, some mornings it's the intense pain. It just really depends on what the trigger and what the type of migraine I'm experiencing at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you talk about that because I know that, for me, for a hormonal migraine, it's very different. It can take longer to come on. It can last much longer in terms of days and days, whereas an attack that's triggered by sense can happen very, very quickly, almost instantaneously. It feels like very severe. An attack I wake up with is very different than an attack I can catch early on in the day. And I know that it's complicated for you too, Erica, because you have different types of migraine.
I do. I have several different types, and sometimes they seem like they're all happening at the same time. But I'm a lot like Angel. I have to kind of just decide what kind of attack is this? How much time do I have? How long have I had it? There's so many things to take into consideration before I treat the migraine. And then it also depends on how long have I had it? What am I doing next? What plans do I have for the day? Those are all things we have to take into consideration in how we treat them.
Right. It can get really complex. It's kind of like this really complex algorithm that goes on in our heads while we're in the middle of an attack, trying to figure out what to do. And it's almost like it would be helpful to have this flow chart so oh, I woke up with it. I'm going straight to this medication, or no, this is a hormonal one, or this was triggered by that. And you could kind of work your way down your flow chart. I wish life was as simple as that. But, Angel, how do you determine how you're going to treat each individual attack, bearing in mind that they differ for you?
The very first thing I have to consider is the responsibilities that I have for that day. Am I required to be in a meeting? Is this a day that I need to be present for my children? That will determine if I medicate, how I medicate, or if I choose not to medicate at all so that I can save some of the medication that I have for a more severe where I have to be present.
What about you, Erin? How do you make a decision about how you're going to treat each individual migraine attack?
Well, I have to listen to my body. I have to decide, what symptoms do I have? Do I have nausea? Am I going to take an oral medication to try to alleviate some of that? Do I have to drive my kids to school or to an event, or, is there some form of responsibility that I have to have that, if my wife's out of town and I have to drive, can I safely drive with whatever treatment that I am giving myself? So I really have to take into consideration a lot of different factors. If I'm needed, if I have to be responsible for my kids, or if I have, or if I can just lay down and just throw everything at the migraine and take the day. It just really depends on, my responsibilities for the day.
Right, absolutely. And it's interesting that you mentioned, a wearable device. A lot of people, I think they have this impression, whether or not they have migraine, you go to the doctor, you get a pill. It's kind of like a once and done thing. That's your migraine treatment. If you're lucky, you'll get something to stop an attack as well as to maybe prevent attacks. But there's not a lot of thought outside of that, or not a lot of awareness. But the reality is we have a lot of options we can put in our toolboxes, including oral tablets or capsules, nasal sprays, injections, medical devices that are FDA cleared, OTC options like green light and glasses, ice packs, things like that. And of course, then there's also our behavior. We can go lie down in a dark room. We can go somewhere quiet. We can stop moving around because movement almost always aggravates a migraine attack. So let's pivot and talk about what each of us have in our migraine treatment toolboxes for the abortive treatment of migraine, because I think there's some people watching this are going to be very curious to hear what it is that we have, and then that will maybe help them decide what they might be missing in their toolboxes and what they can consider adding. So let's start with you, Erica. What are some of the things that you have in your migraine toolbox for the abortive treatment of migraine?
I have several abortive treatments that I use. Some are medicine, some are things like ginger chews and peppermint oils and things like that. But I keep them all in a pouch so that the pouch is portable. I can take it to my purse, I can put it next to my bed, keep it in the car. It goes everywhere I go because I never know when I'm going to have an attack. So, what's in my toolbox is a pair of migraine glasses. I have some essential oils like peppermint and things like that to help me with nausea because that helps my nausea. I have the ginger chews. I have some electrolyte powder that I can throw in a water bottle. I also have my medication. So, I have like a dissolving tablet. I also have a liquid medication that helps me because I get pain related non epileptic seizures. And to keep out of the emergency room, they were able to give me a medication that I could just basically drink. Um, and that's what helps a lot too. So it's making sure that I have everything in that little pouch that I can take anywhere I go. And that has been my saving grace.
Yeah, that was perfect. Thanks so much for sharing that. I appreciate that. What about you, Angel? What do you have in your migraine treatment toolbox?
I have several toolboxes. I keep one in the house. I have one in my husband's car. I also have an additional little, what we'll call migraine kit for my children who are also chronic. And in our kits are the essential oils. There, the sunglasses. There's the migraine pillow with flaxseed that I can put on an ice pack. I also have my medication. Since I only have a very limited amount, each month I'll take one and put in each of those pouches so that no matter where I am, I'll have those accessible to me as well, as or my husband, so that if he can be able to treat me when I'm beyond. And I don't just have the oral, I also have suppository ways in which I can get nausea medicine into me if I need to as well. So I carry an ice pack.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting listening to the two of you because it just is highlights how different everybody's toolboxes are. So for me, because I'm sensitive, and that's my biggest trigger, essential oils are a big no-no. And just like don't put me near anything that smells at all. It's got to be completely and utterly neutral. And I can't take any of the traditional acute treatments for migraine anymore. I used to be able to, but I can't now because they're contraindicated for me. So I have a variety of things in my toolbox that include, I do actually have an oral dissolving tablet for nausea. I have a nasal spray because for me that works really fast. And sometimes I just need something that works super, super fast. I have an injection because it works almost as fast as the nasal spray. And it's better than taking anything orally because I get very severe nausea, so I'm not able to absorb oral medications well. And the injection lasts longer than the nasal spray for me. It does. I also have a medical device that I wear on my arm that I use for some attacks. I have OTC options. So I have my migraine glasses I wear almost everywhere I go. And if it's bad, inside my home as well. I have a green light, which I love. What about you, Aaron? What do you have in your toolbox?
Well, for me, I've got this little cinch like backpack gym bag kind of thing that I take with me everywhere. I've got a wearable device that I can use. I've got dissolving medication for nausea. I also have I have the ice packs that you break them and then they get cold. Like for an injury, I bring those with me. I've got 2 or 3 of those with me just because they don't last as long. So you never know if it's gonna you're gonna need it longer. I do have peppermint essential oils as well. That's the only thing that I can smell when I'm in a migraine attack. And then I also have ginger chews. Um, I probably have a dozen pair of sunglasses. I buy them cheap. I buy the real cheap tinted sunglasses. And speaking of tint, the windows on my car are tinted. So it's something that I try to keep the light out as much as possible for when I have migraine attacks.
Right. Yeah. And it's a lot. And so, for people who don't have migraine, who may be watching this, you may be wondering, wow, I didn't know that they had to carry all this medication, all these treatment options, all these different things with them. But we do. Like the rest of you, I have it everywhere. I have some in my car. I have some in my handbag in a tiny little pill container. I have injections in my handbag and a nasal spray. There's nowhere that I ever go without my treatment options so that I can treat it fast. Because the reality is, if we don't treat an attack fast, it's often harder to manage. So I want to kind of pivot towards the end and ask everybody for any tips and advice that they have for people. And remember, this is not medical advice. We're not doctors. We can't tell you what to do. This is just ideas that have worked for us here. So consider, if you have severe nausea or vomiting, you may need to look for things that are not orally, focused. May need to look for a nasal spray or an injection. And just think about the different ways that your medications may work or times that it may not work, because we want to stay out of the emergency room, out of urgent care. So think about what you have and look at your gaps in your toolbox. Angel, what would be some of the tips that you would have for people?
I am somewhat medical resistant to a lot of the pain medications that are out there for abortives. So I've had to learn first to listen to my body. And if I can behaviorally get into a cool room, use the ice pack, and that can be enough, then that I have to be okay with that being enough. I have had to look at, whether it be other more holistic ways in which to treat the pain. But one of the things that I would encourage you is that if you have someone who can be your advocate, that you show them the type of medication that you need. So if it's a time where you can't lift your head to get the ice pack or to get the medication or take the injection, they can give that to you. And that takes away a little bit of the anxiety that comes with an attack.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great point. So for those of you who do have a family member or friend who is able and willing to do that, it's super important. I know when I was a single mom, I had to get help with some of my attacks because they completely disabled me. They just laid me out. What about you, Erica? What are some of the tips that you would give for people?
Well, Angel made a good point about the anxiety of having an attack. I get a lot of anxiety either with the attack or about having an attack, so staying organized is really important. Staying ahead of them, making sure you have enough medications, and determining, are you ready to take this pill or not? Because you only have like 8, for the month, and you have 1 left. So you just have to really take time to organize yourself, make sure you have enough of whatever you keep in your toolbox so that you're not kind of freaking out in the moment. Like, where is it? I don't know where it's at. Oh, I put it here last time. And so keeping everything in a central location is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such an important point, keeping it in a central location, making sure you have it. Is honestly, it's going to be the one day that you think, oh, I feel great, and you forget to take it with you, that you end up out an hour away from home or 2 hours away from home, and that attack hits. I've been there. I've been like, going into a pharmacy and saying, please, can you look at my prescriptions? I know I don't normally come to you, but I need something. I'm so sick. So it's so important to have stuff available for you. What about you, Aaron? What are some of the tips that you would give?
Erica touched on it. Be organized, and at least if there's any aspect of your life that you're organized at, be organized with your migraine treatment, because just like you just said, with being an hour or so away from home and realizing you either forgot it or you just, hey, if today's going to be a great day, I'm doing fine, and then you just leave it at home. That's why I only keep everything in one bag, because I always remember to bring it with me. And honestly, I have a push button start of the car, so I keep my keys in there too. So if the car doesn't start, I got to go back and get the bag. So I've got all my migraine stuff in there too. It's super important to communicate with your family, especially if you got somebody at home that can help you. Let them know if you've got like an injectable, or if you've got something that requires a little bit more, I guess more detail to administer it. That way they can help you out when you're in an attack that you cannot do anything at all.
Absolutely. And I think the only thing I would add to that is it triggered my thoughts from what you said, which is, talking about memory, you forgot some things in your toolbox. We forget a lot of things. The cognitive issues, often they're comorbid with migraine. I don't know if we know it's because of comorbid conditions, or if it's just a symptom of migraine, or if it's a symptom of the medications we take, or all of the above. But we all seem to have some kind of cognitive and memory issues. And so that's why it's so important to have a plan ahead of time. So if you or a loved one live with migraine, we encourage you to take a look at the Migraine Meanderings attack-based care resources and our toolbox, which is available on our website. This will help you see if there are any gaps in your treatment plan, and hopefully it help you initiate a productive conversation with your doctor. Talk to them about your migraine experience and how your attacks may differ. Educate yourselves on the different treatment options available to people with migraine. And we encourage you to connect with different advocacy organizations and a patient community to learn new ways to help manage this disease. Above all, never give up hope. There are so many treatment options out there. There is so much new research going on. So hold on to that and reach out to others for support.